Hi, my name is TK with Grace. I'm a writer and creative entrepreneur, and I have the privilege and honor of introducing the Studio Talk podcast, which is an extension of the Studio Talk sessions that have been ongoing for over a year. And I have with me Fish and Eugene, who I want them to introduce themselves because they all have a way in which there's some spice with their introduction. So let's start with this guy on my, is this the left or right?
Left. The left.
The
left. Greater than. My name is Eugene Kavuma, 6 letters each. I'm a balanced person. I lead the special projects team at a media house here in Uganda. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
My name is Levi Werunga, or people can call me Fish.
My friends call me Fish.
Yeah, Fish. Yeah. I do videos.
I've always wanted to understand why you call yourself Fish.
Remember Prison Break? Did you watch it?
No.
Okay, there's a character called Schofield. His nickname was Fish. There you go.
Okay, and then what's the story behind balance and 6 letters? What?
You know what? Now let me create a story. Generally speaking in life, I like to be fair. And when I discovered that my name is balanced on each side, it's kind of fair when you look at the balance thingy. I thought I would always remind people that that's a value I carry. So that's why.
So we are going to start by breaking down or sharing our thoughts and opinions on the Ugandan creative community structure and comparing it with other people outside there. Kenya, Africa, maybe the States. And I'd like to share about Nairobi because that's the only exposure I have. I went there once and I had the opportunity to have a conversation with a gentleman who runs an agency. And the way work was happening for them was so swift, which is not the case here, because I find like this side we're always complaining about we need more time.
Yeah.
You need time to think about I'm not in my creative space right now, and that's not the option that side. And when you see their influencers, for example, those guys are making a lot of money. Being in the creative sector or field is actually a viable business, which is not the same this side.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts on me as Eugene? So Nairobi is a very good example. In fact, their government is now in conversation to move 10% of the money that they spend on communication into the influencer space. And then Sundays are now dedicated. When you walk through Nairobi on Sundays and you walk through their streets, you know, all those people doing TikTok dances and things like that. Their new mayor kind of dedicated Sunday to that. So while in Kampala we will block the road so that there is a market, in Nairobi they block the streets so that people can go and create content on the streets and make money. So they've recognized that opportunity. So the difference is that there is support from the government section of things. And then the other comparison would be, let's say, Lagos, Nigeria. Their growth, the growth of the creative sector has been in spite of not because of the government intervention. They were lucky enough that they had people who appreciated the arts, and they were rich people. They had money from oil. And they were tired of watching movies from abroad. So they had philanthropic people who just put money into the arts in the early 80s, 90s. And then you see where their movie industry is at the moment. It's because they were rich men who reinvested into the space as a point of love and passion and etc. And then when you come back home here in Uganda, I think that we are also very creative in our own way. And I know that whenever you make considerations, I mean comparisons between us and anyone else, we could always come up short. The reason for that is our culture. You see, we consume creative and cultural goods by default. We don't tend to pay for them. So even that urge to move people from just consuming the good into now paying for it is also a challenge. An example, anywhere, even growing up in school, you are taught all these traditional dances, and then you performed for your teachers and blah 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 blah. And then when we go to Kwanjulas and all these other ceremonies, those things are part, like we are not paying for them, so it becomes very difficult for, let's say, a dancer in Uganda to make money because they can already, like, people are already consuming their product without people already consuming their product without them having to pay for it. So there's still that challenge around the mindset shift, but also there's not enough structures here in Uganda to make that. And by structures, I mean enough connected creative hubs. Here, for example, we have what Uganda is doing with Studio Talk, which is amazing. But what would be epic and what would grow and make the thing move really quick is if there were about 15 or 20 of those in each of the 6 cities that we have in the country. Then the other thing, so aside from being affected by our culture, there's also the fact that when you look at the size of our economy, it's not that large. So, and a lot of the things within the creative and culture space are considered luxuries. For example, a wedding dress costs as much as it costs because they think that the less that you put on, which you have to import and has high import duty, is considered a luxury. We are lucky currently that camera equipment is not being charged for tax, but that's because over years and having benchmarked on someone like Lagos in Nigeria, we're able to say if we bring this in, people create, and so people make and get jobs. So as a comparison, we are still short regarding the size of our GDP. We cannot do much about it right now. We're waiting for the energy sector to kick up, and hopefully we will see what happened in Lagos happen here in Kampala, i.e. the people who make money out of the oil then move that money into the creative sector. 2, we look forward to seeing more creative leaning politicians or policy makers or leaders step into the place. Like Sekaja in Nairobi, his history sort of allows him to understand where creatives come from. So we get someone like that in our space as well. We are born to have people who can do something positive. So that would be my comparison.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is for Uganda, some of the things that have affected us are culture, the economy, and also policies that don't favor us. Now I know that
policy players.
You
know, we have really good policies, but we don't have people in the place with enough drive to pursue them, to complete.
So after what he has shared with us, I know that Fish, you have experience working with Kenyans and Ugandans as well. So would you take us through what your experience has been in terms of the structure that we have here and the structure that exists in Nairobi that seems to be a thriving, their creative ecosystem seems to be thriving, and yet ours is just there.
Ours is not there. We are doing like Studio Talk.
Okay, it is growing. We are coming.
Okay, I'm not going to enter into data like Eugene, but all I can say is when you look at how Kenyans operate, it's because of the currency and how the economy works. There, you don't have tomorrow, you just have today. You just have to try to do your very best today, making sure that you have little, if I can say, like bread. So now when you look at how Kenyans operate, it's they encourage so much in teamwork. Why? Because for us to survive, we really need unions. It's not the same with Uganda. Uganda, it's too much, how can I say, independent. Everyone for himself. And that is already a little bit, I wouldn't say toxic, but it's a little bit discouraging for creatives to come through and collaborate. So when I look at how Kenyans operate, of course they are fast-tempered. Everything's about now. In Uganda, it's a little bit laid back. So now that means that the creative world is going to be slower, because after all, you realize that after all, I have my dad, I have my mom to connect me. So I can be a little bit chiller. So we have a culture where we so much depend on the family structure for our creativity and just growth. And in Kenya, it's actually the complete different, where every man for himself. So for you to survive out there, you really need a lot of teamwork. You really need to know who's on your side, and you grasp that person and be like, okay, you know what? It's either today or we die.
Okay, so I hear you leaning into collaboration. And even me, my experience with, first of all, I also struggle. It's a good thing to do, but I be having this mindset of, now if we have like 5 people on this gig, how much money am I taking home? And I think that is where the problem is like we're not being paid enough. And so you feel threatened. If you bring in more people on the team, then you're going to get little money or not enough. And I feel like for me with collaboration, that is what I'm always thinking about. And I think that's one of the things that we are lacking here in UG. Like there's so few collaborative spaces, and if they're there, I feel like they are in like this is our circle, no one is entering into it. Then there's this one here, no one is entering into it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I wanted to add is when you look at an economy like that of Nairobi, they have, the UN headquarters are moving from New York to Nairobi. Yeah, when you look at some of the major banks and major players across, when they are shifting into the space, like when they want to move into the East African market, they usually place their headquarters in Nairobi. When you look at those things, so someone like that they come with better policies. They're like, for us, we don't pay people X, we pay them 5 or 10x, that is our minimum, and things like that. Of course, that space is going to grow. So even when you look at the global positioning of a country like Kenya, the fact that they have a border with the sea, they are not landlocked, those small things, they add up to the ground, they trickle down and they have an impact on the ground. Now, the only way, like I keep looking ahead and I keep thinking, the only example we have closest is that of what happened in Lagos, because we have similar opportunities arising from the energy sector, so oil and gas and all associated things. And you have seen that when they have, for example, improved just by their presence here, the quality of welding that we have in the country now. From when they started the exploration to date, the quality of welding is improving. My belief is that the players in those space, should they appreciate culture and the value of culture, they will move some of that money into galleries, into art museums and things like that, and then the creative space shall grow as a result. However, we also have everything. Like you can get a seed and throw it on the ground in Kampala here and it shall grow. So we are...
But for how long are you there planting? It is taking long. Before you know it, you're 60.
Let me add on to something. In Kenya, it's always about survival for the fittest. Yeah, opportunities are really rare. Why? Because if I don't seize it today, tomorrow it's already gone. Yeah, to someone else. The competition is very high for all. Everyone is actually basically a critical thinker. It's not just about thinking about the project. It's about getting it done. Because if you don't do it, someone else is going to take your place. In Uganda, even if I don't do it, after all, my family will sort me out.
Okay.
That's
that fallback thing.
Yeah, that's fallback thing where we don't really value what opportunity is. It's just about, hey, you know what? I have connection somewhere that can sort me out tomorrow. That's
and I guess that comes from the fact that, again, I'll refer to myself. I think I entered into this creative space like 5 years ago. Before that, I didn't even know.
How did you know you had entered? How did I know? Yeah.
When people started calling me to do work, I was like, oh, you think I can design? That's when I was like, oh, I think I have entered in here. And I think coming from, as a child, like doing artsy things did not seem like a profession or a career you could follow.
Right.
And I guess that is another reason as to why we are struggling. The culture, the stereotypes around just creativity and what we define as creativity. You know. Yeah, so even our definition of creativity is just the artist, the musician, the graphic designer, and yet it's beyond just the beautiful things that you see out there. Even the doctors, accountants, I feel like art is so subjective, and everyone, once they find a way in which they can express themselves, then that is art for them. So I want us to go now into the conversation we're actually supposed to be having, which is on why we should be having such conversations. And I guess we'd start by talking about the importance of having such conversations. Your experience with coming for Studio Talk, how has that grown you as a creative? And how has that grown you as a creative? The conversations that have been happening.
So Studio Talk for me has been a calmaration, entiko. Of like, or rather the latest heel in terms of the creative communities that are nurturing me. I've been lucky I have been very, very lucky. I think, say for example, growing up in church, Kampala Baptist Church, learning to play the drums at that point for me was felt like it was learning a skill so that I can contribute to a community. So for me, being creative felt more as a responsibility than a thing to brag about. Like, I can take really amazing things and stuff like that. Even shifting into photography and film and then podcasting and then into strategy and things like that. Every step that was happening was for me primarily because there was a sense of let me contribute back to the community that has been growing me. And in that sense, Posy, what's the question?
The question is what is the importance of these conversations? Why should creatives be having such conversations?
Direction. And so to add on to that, for example, direction. I had people who I was watching on YouTube, but also other people who I was watching in real life. And I could read that they are shifting from this program. Let's say they are shifting from Premiere Pro to DaVinci. And I'm like, generally speaking, what does that shift mean for the industry? Does that mean that videos are going to be so normal that people have to get really great color grading skills in order for them to stand out? That came from being part of a community. I think that it gives you an opportunity, a sense of direction. It gives you an opportunity to learn. Personally, it was always a sense of responsibility that this is something I need to contribute, or I need to have this skill in order for me to contribute to the community I'm working with. And so, in a sense, those things are important, and that is why I think communities like that should exist. Then I will talk about motive.
Okay. Okay. When I look at this, I see the power of collaboration that needs to be worked on. Why am I saying this? Because when you look at the studio talks we've been having, there's a lot of individualism where every man for himself. But looking at the little experience I've had on the field, I've had situations where the fellow collaborators have actually saved my job as a film director, if I can say that. Not because they're getting paid, but because you have something in common. So when I come to studio talks and you see a lot of separation where everyone is part of, if I can say, everyone is just on themselves. To me, it's a little bit discouraging, but also it's an opportunity to encourage others to collaborate with others. Not just, hey, collaborate, but also why should collaboration be effective? We're very little in Uganda, very few creatives. So if you stay in a corner by yourself and you think you're going to make it alone, it's always going to be disastrous, if I can say that.
I think when you look, I don't know if there is any creative discipline that excels in isolation. Okay, we can say, let's say, painters. Painters need inspiration. I really love those movies where the guy is an eccentric painter, but you always see that he has to bring in a model, a hand model, or get a picture of someone or something, and things like that. Writing, for example, the best expression of that idea of collaboration within the creative space is a movie. When it is like being done and put together, there are carpenters involved, there are fashion designers, there are makeup artists there, and yet almost people see is the actor, the main actor, and the villain and things like that, and maybe the director. And that underscores one of the challenges of the whole meeting up thing, is that as a creative, you want to shine. It is very difficult to stay in the background. Because actually the more you shine, the more money you make. So when you stay in the background, the other guy makes, you keep receiving peanuts from them. Yet ironically, there's no other profession that allows you to shine nga wakayingira. architects require you to understudy a fellow architect for 2 years, and they then are the ones who decide that they have learnt enough. If you look within the corporate world, you have a step. You go in as an intern, then you become an associate, then maybe before you make it to like the guys who make the decisions. Those spaces have accepted and have acknowledged the need for growth in stages. So that's one. But also those spaces have also accepted that if for you are a procurement person and you work, let's say, in a media house, don't ever expect to be on TV. It is not your it's not your thing. You're part of the contribution and etc. So for example, for you as a writer, you've written a script for a movie. You would want everyone to know you wrote that script, to the point of maybe I even act the movie myself, but they're better actors than you are, and you're a better writer than many people. So I think that the absence of like spaces of meeting sometimes is as a result of maybe individuals not understanding that we are on a world stage and everyone has a role to play, a different role.
For me, in the same light with the necessity for meetups and how it has worked for me is the conversations that happen there. I find that who I am today is because of conversations that have happened, or someone seeing something that I can do and pointing it out. Because for me, my language is words of affirmation. Like the writing, it used to be a joke.
By the way,
the writing used to be a joke, and my friends would be like, "You should write more. Start a blog." What? So I promised some lady I was going to start blogging, and one day she calls like, "I'm waiting for your blog." I'm like, "It's coming out tomorrow." And then I researched WordPress through the night, and on Friday the next morning I had a blog, and now I am an award-winning blogger.
Because of the motivation.
Yeah,
from
motivation.
else,
the conversations that happen in there, listening to other people's stories and being encouraged and knowing that you're not alone. And also valuing the process, because when you hear stories of different people and where they have come from, then you also know the importance of maybe the different stages that you're going through as a creator. When you start writing, you don't start as an expert. Like if I look at the first things I wrote, I cringe.
Right.
Like, what was I thinking? Like, what is this? But then I've also, through that process now, I have become better, and you can only know that when you hear other people's stories. And sometimes even one of the reasons why people do not come out is because, what's it called, imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Or you feel like you're not good enough. But when you hear or even see the stories of people in the same field with you and where they have come from, and you see their work before and maybe 3 years later they are better, then you get to appreciate. But you cannot know about those things if these meetups are not happening. So for me, the cherry on top is the conversations and the stories, which ideally happens at the meetups.
I think when you look at the arrangement of the studio talk down there, a lot of people don't embrace failure. You know what I mean? Yeah, you just can't wake up and create something and you expect it to be perfect and to produce. You get, okay, based on my little experience, I've realized that I've learned more from failure than success. Yeah. So when you engage with the other people down there, it's important for you to encourage them that it's okay to fail. Just try out something. Yeah. If it doesn't work up, you learn from it. Yeah, you get. But then you realize that some of the creatives are so, how can I say it? Like they're so reserved. Yeah. They are so scared of how judgmental people can be. And I've realized that if you produce something and you share it out there, whether it's a positive comment someone is going to give you or a negative comment, you're still going to learn from the both of them. Yeah, you get. So there's that reservation where they're so much scared of what will people think about me. Man, express yourself. This is who you are. This is your identity. So it has been a very good journey for me for the past, I think, few years with it, with the talk.
Yeah. And then like, so what one of the things that for me comes out is the opportunity to motivate oneself. Like, you see what's happening here, maybe I need to break out of my shell. Yeah. And then also that thing of the motivation to actually get started can come from collectives such as that. I think on, let's say, playing at an industry level, it's not until you are able to like hear and know the struggles of people, the ones who are playing in that space, that you can be able to legislate better. There's a couple of things that we've been working on over the years, and one of the requirements is, one of the hard things about that thing was that they required us to be in a consortium of organizations that are going to work together to influence and impact the creative and culture space. Now, every one of those organizations came to that project thinking they are the ones, you know, I'm good in, and they're fairly, they've been around for a bit, they have made money.
Legit.
So yeah, they are legit. So like even at that level, we struggled. We struggled, and yet we were all coming together to do a good thing for the industry. But it took a while for the gel to happen and for people to recognize, understand that this is the role I play and no one else can play it. And I think creative meetups allow us to do that.
So Eugene, you talked about motivation. Yeah? In most cases, realize that people are so comfortable saying that I need the right energy to start. Yeah, they forget one most important thing, that is discipline. Discipline is very uncomfortable. It doesn't care how you feel. It cares about you waking up in the morning and getting the job done. Yeah. So sometimes it's very uncomfortable waking up and you want to, but at least when you're in the right space, yeah, as a video editor, I don't need to feel good to edit, but I just need to be next to, let me say, Premiere Pro and be like, let me try to cut something out. It will come because I'm in the right place. But you realize that most people, they tend to go with their feelings, where we're like, today I don't feel like it. Then before you know it, you've burnt 1 week of doing nothing. Yeah.
So and those weeks can run, eh?
Yes, the weeks can run, yeah. Before you know it, you haven't done anything, and then you wait for someone to come and tell you, hey, wake up. And one person once told me that it all starts with a small thing. Wake up and lay your bed. If you can do that for 2 weeks straight ahead, at least that's one part of your discipline. Go to something else, tick. But then it's all
and you know, in order for you to you can underplay the value of laying a bed. But until someone else and I think people with partners experience this, you can tell your partner, don't do that. That's not a good investment. Wow. Until some fish goes and tells them, but don't do that. That's not a good investment. That's when. So generally speaking, we often, I think, as human beings, need that external stimuli to just reassure us that the decision you need to make is the right decision. So yeah, that's the other opportunity.
Testimony on discipline and laying the bed. I think I heard, what's the name of this psychologist? Jordan Peterson. Yes.
A guy with deep English.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So I
have comments about him, but
we do
for another time, guys.
For another time.
Yeah, I picked some meat from what he was saying, and he talked about building habits. And
you're going to talk about his suits.
He does wear well. He
guys,
dresses
please,
very well.
Can I finish my story?
Sorry.
So I've been struggling with being disciplined since even being in the creative field is new, and because like what we know from, it's not like a viable career, so I entered into it being so laid back. And then I've heard stories of people who have made it, and you see how much effort they're putting into it. And for someone who does not like structure, I feel like most creatives do not like to be put in a box. And sometimes I think the box is necessary. And I've been trying to put myself in a box for about a year now. It's been hard, but it started with me laying my bed, like small things, and then all of that pours into the creative things that I do. Like if I can lay my bed, I think I'd be training my conscious mind to trust me. As if, and
actually you're training it to respect your decision.
Exactly.
Tikia, when you look at
that name, bro.
Yeah, man, it's deadly.
The one and only.
Now, when you look at the whole idea of discipline, there's also another thing called vision. You where do you want to be? And how do you get there? It's not going to come. It's easy for me to see Eugene, who has been in the industry for 20 years, and like, wow, I want to be Eugene under 2 years. That's you get. I forget to look at the process that Eugene has taken to get to where he is. Yeah. So we like quick medication where we're like quick. I can think about something and be like, wow, this is really a good plan. This is a really good. I think 1 week is going to
make it happen.
Because there's a guy who said slowly is the fastest way to arrive at a point. So it's about just small progress. When you look at yourself in, let me say, 2013, like last year, I evaluated myself and like, okay, did I achieve what I wanted to do? Not everything, but at least majority of the things I did, I'm like, that's a win. Whether someone comes and tells me that, yo, you need to work faster, you need to do this, you go and do your thing, as long as I'm still focused on the vision. You get it's my purpose. I understand what purpose is, or at least I understand where I want to be. How I get there, it's about the process, respecting the process. You get it's not going to take just 1 year, it's not going to take just a few months. Now we love being very comfortable thinking that I can put a few boxes together so quickly and I get the things done. You get and that's never the case in most cases.
Okay, so
Did I
yes.
just say cases in most cases?
You're giving these guys.
Okay, guys. So conversations like this are what happen in these different meetup spaces, and the importance of being in those spaces is so you can learn these things: discipline, character, growth in your creative field. Like there are certain things you can't know in your box or in your cave. I know that most creatives are introverted, but it's very important for us to come out. And
actually, they are not. They're just scared. Yeah.
Is it fear?
Yes. It is.
Okay, I don't want us to get into personalities and character traits and all of that. Let's give our parting shots.
Yeah. The beauty of a lot of the growth I have experienced in my professional life has been when I have worked in community. By working in community, I mean that when I have done things that contribute to a group, but also benefit me as an individual. And that has helped me build, let's say, motive as the first community manager there. Coming from the creative space, I understood the importance of people gathering, fellow creatives gathering, the safety net it provides, because you know that when you say, for example, if you're within the finance world and you say GDP, everyone understands it. So when you're within the creative world and you say procrastination, everyone gets that kind of thing. But then because you're all experiencing similar things, all having one unified desire at an individual level, which is let me make money from my ability to think and create the way I do. All of you who are in that room have that same thing, and you're just hearing from other people. And you're getting options, alternatives. You're like, I can do that way. I can also do it this way. But that guy is taking this route. I don't want to take that route. I want to take this one. Maybe let me work with Tikia. I got it.
Yeah,
okay. Finally. Let me work with Tikia, and she writes, and for me, I shoot. I don't have to do everything. So creative meetups, I like Studio Talk, I feel are going to provide that opportunity, and mentorship. The opportunity for someone who has tracked the path to say there's a hole there. You can go, if you fall, but you fall knowing there's a hole. That comfort of I fell in this hole on my own doing, helps you. That lesson sinks in so many ways that maybe other things would not have allowed it to sink. So those would be the two things: the opportunity to be mentored, but also the opportunity to be motivated.
Okay, thank you very much, Eugene, with balance.
Balanced name,
Fish.
Okay. All I can say is I love practically getting involved in works myself. We had a talk one time in the studio, and there's a lady who was a lawyer, came and said, hey, if you really want anything to do with law, just try to do the research yourself, I really don't like the law, and I don't like accounting, but
accountants alone.
But the thing is, I'm forced to try to dig into that world to get to know what it takes to get the job done. You get most of the times you realize that in my history of doing work, I realize that it's easy to delegate work when you're collaborating, but I can give Eugene, for example, I can give him work to edit, but yet I have no idea what editing involves. You get now that it can be very frustrating for him because I don't have the experience of editing. So with time I realized that I have to be involved in audio engineering, video production, every single thing that I can get my hands on. Why? So that if I'm collaborating with someone or I'm bringing someone on board to do a project, I know what it takes to do the job. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so for the creative out there who has been listening in, we've come from breaking down our structure and seeing that our culture, I was going to say fails us. Does it fail us? Or culture, stereotypes, our economy, all of those have been barriers for our growth, and the only way we can break those stereotypes, break those narratives, break those, or even get into spaces where we are now the policy makers because we understand our art better than the people who are making these policies for us. The solution for that, at least for now, is the creative meetups. You get into a space of accountability, you get into a space of growth, you get into a space of mentorship and motivation. And that's it from us. Thank you very much, Fish, for
goodbye.
Thank you,
bye.
with Balance.
Balance, 6 letters each.
And thank you to Uganda Studios and the Studio Talk.
They really have a beautiful podcast studio.
Yes, they do.
Where we are seated right now.
I went to be the salesperson
for the place.
Halango.
You're hired, I believe.
Okay, guys, bye.